Hello and thank you for tuning in to our TechEd session. In the next 30 minutes, you will learn about SAP's journey in integrating the solutions to an intelligent suite and about opening up S/4HANA towards internal as well as external consumers. My name is Waldemar Befort. I'm part of the SAP S/4HANA product management team, and with me, I'm glad to welcome Checo from Nestle SA and my colleague Javit Gellaw. Let's take a look at the agenda. I will start with an overview of the Intelligent Suite and use an example of source to pay. Second, we will learn about Nestle's journey to SAP S/4HANA Central Procurement and look at that business process integration scenario end to end. Finally, my colleague Javit will walk us through options how to explore existing, but also how to request missing APIs with SAP S/4HANA. Okay, let's get started and look at the bigger picture. At the bottom, you see the SAP Business Technology Platform, which is the enabler for the Intelligent Suite with SAP S/4HANA being its core. The Intelligent Suite is a well-defined and integrated set of applications which facilitate end-to-end business processes such as lead to cash, design to operate, source to pay, recruit to retire. And now you might wonder how that connects to integration. Well, first, SAP is investing into native, out-of-the-box and best practice-based integration scenarios, and we'll see an example in a bit. Second, SAP opens up the platform and applications to customers and partners to facilitate process extensions. I suggest let us use the source-to-pay process as an example to explain SAP's invest into business process integration. And doing that, we actually need to differentiate between transactional and master data integration. I'm going to start with transactional data integration in source to pay. First, with S/4HANA, we have basically our core in the center of the Intelligent Suite. So are the integrations S/4HANA centric and best practice based scenarios. Second, S/4HANA native and OData based APIs. We are moving away from the so-called CRG add-on for those of you who are familiar with source to pay. The CRG add-on is basically our vehicle, for integration content onto ECC as well as S/4HANA, while actually the CRG itself is still there for connectivity and integration content such as mappings. On the master data integration front, the evolution actually is going away from point-to-point integrations, moving to reusable data in basically two phases. In phase one, we are removing the dependency again to the CRG add-on, and we are switching to S/4HANA native APIs for the data extraction. The data distribution into Ariba apps is done via the Ariba MDNI module. In phase two, and that's our ultimate goal, the future solution then is based on a unified and common master data model, which applies to all consuming applications from SAP and actually facilitates the data extraction to be done just once into SAP Master Data Integration, MDI, which then turns into a data provider for the subscribed consuming applications, be it SAP Ariba, SuccessFactors, or others. So we just dived into the integration journey for source to pay. If you'd like to get a more holistic overview, please take a look at the integration strategy paper behind this link here. Now, I'm switching gears and moving to our second topic. Hello, Luis. Thank you for joining and telling us about Nestle's transition to SAP S/4HANA Central Procurement. Nestle, I know, is using Ariba buying, sourcing, contracts, and now you decided to innovate the source-to-contract process with S/4HANA. Can you tell us more on why Nestle embarked on that journey?
Thanks for having me, Waldemar, today. I'm happy to talk about Nestle's journey into S/4HANA Central Procurement, but in order to understand this journey, I think I need to briefly introduce Nestle, and there's nothing better than using some figures for that. Nestle today is the largest food and beverage company in the world with more than 155 years of history providing safe and quality nutrition for all. We sell more than 1 billion Nestle products every single day in around 186 countries worldwide. We count with approximately 273,000 employees, and we collaborate with approximately 150,000 suppliers to manage few hundred thousands of contracts every year. Indeed, one of the starting points that we have in Nestle, and an important process variant for us, is when we start a scenario with a sourcing event in which we collect quotes from suppliers, and then of course we want to use those information, that collected data, into a contract, right? So talking about contracts, Nestle makes a strong differentiation between our legal framework agreements and our operational contracts. But let's go step by step, right? We start with our contract, with our sourcing event, right? We request quotes from suppliers, we negotiate those quotes, and then we award. When we go and we create a contract workspace in Ariba, where we start negotiating the terms and conditions of that legal framework agreement. And then once we are ready, we publish that, we go through a digital signature, leveraging the direct integration from Ariba Contract Management with our digital signature provider. And once that is digitally approved or signed, then we push that into we will be pushing that into our central procurement process, where we are gonna create our commercial agreement. And that commercial agreement will then get approved and distributed to our connected systems, where the factor consume it and order from those globally negotiated agreements. That consumption of that from those global contracts then gets reverted back into central procurement, so we can have the proper visibility of our global contracts.
No doubt, Luis. I mean, that's a really complex scenario, which goes across several Nestle systems, right? We've seen it starting in Ariba sourcing. You negotiate with suppliers over the Ariba network. You go down to Ariba contracts. We've seen the S/4HANA, central procurement solution, and then even the connected SAP backend systems. How did you actually cope with that challenge of integrating all the modules?
Well, I have to say that the project is still ongoing. We are working through some extensibilities of those Nestle-specific requirements, and we're getting those solved at project level. But overall, Nestle appreciates that SAP deliver fundamental building blocks for this integration to happen as part of the standard solution, and provide us with the availability of having multiple integration points across all of these decision points in our end-to-end process.
I'm glad to hear, the standard integration capabilities worked out well, even for the Nestle demanding requirements. If you were to summarize the main Nestle decision points, which would you mention?
Indeed, Nestle look at various aspects and requirements in order to make our decisions to embark on this journey, but there were mainly two pillars. First of all is the solution integration capabilities. For Nestle was really important that we could establish a very robust integration between our legal framework agreements and these global contracts, operational contracts, and have real-time distribution of those global contracts to our connected ERP systems, right? And providing us at the same time with the right level of visibility and prediction of the consumption and expiration of those global contracts. The second very important aspect was, of course, the value proposition. And this project, as I mentioned already, is absolutely critical for Nestle procurement, because it's only by ordering against these global contracts that we can achieve those negotiated savings in the business, and that can be applied to the total cost of ownership of our products. We also appreciate the tight collaboration with SAP Early Adopter Care Team, which has helped us overcome some of the product limitations and safeguard the timelines of the project.
Thanks a lot, Luis, for sharing your story with us. I think it's actually a lighthouse example, right, for an integrated scenario in the SAP Intelligence Suite portfolio. And yeah, I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see which will be our next joint venture.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Hello, Javit. Having standard integration between the SAP modules is a no-brainer, but how about use cases where the SAP S/4HANA customers need integration with third-party applications, be it for side-by-side extensions or process integration use cases?
Thanks a lot, Waldemar. That's a great question. As we already heard from the discussion with Luis, integration is one of the important requirements from our customers that deal with heterogeneous SAP and non-SAP application. To achieve that, an open of the digital core, meaning S4, is a prerequisite. Looking at this slide, as you can see, the S4 is basically focusing on API-first strategy, which is very important from customer point of view. And as you can see on the picture on the right-hand side, customers are expecting API-first strategy, which enables them to integrate and extend easily to SAP cloud application, on-premise application, or third-party applications. So when we come to the next slide, as you can see here, we have identified for our customers an end-to-end process where on one hand side, our customers can discover the APIs on the API Hub, which is a one-stop shop for integration artifacts like APIs or data, APIs, business events, and integration contents, where the customers can identify, test, and use the APIs. On the other hand side, what we are providing our customers is an influence session which can be used from customers to request new APIs. And the customer influence session, which has been introduced this year, is also linked on API Hub. So basically, the question would be, you might ask, how does the request process works? So as already mentioned, the customer influence session has been introduced this year, and customers who would like to use the session to request APIs, they can go to the customer influence session first of all, and then they will address the requirement and provide a categorized request based on the details, meaning if the customer is requesting API, for example, for finance procurement, they need to identify for which LOBs they would like to request the APIs. Afterwards, SAP colleagues from LOB, they will look at the requirements, they will analyze and validate the requirements, and then prepare a response for customers. At the end, our colleagues from the LOB, they will look at it and they will respond to the customer within 20 days. So how does the detailed steps of the request submission process looks like? We from SAP recommend to customers, first of all, to check on API Hub for missing APIs. If the APIs are missing or any additional fields or enhancements are required, the customer should go to the customer influence session and provide us a detailed information, including the form and the template has been filled, and all of the use case scenarios, be it for integration or extensibility, has been described. Once all those informations are available, our colleagues from the LOB, they will analyze and validate all the requirement with the colleagues from product management and engineering. In the case of any additional information is required, they will reach out to the customer. Afterwards, the customer will be able to find all the responses which are available, meaning once the LOB colleagues have analyzed, they will provide the status of the requirement, and they will provide us internally a backlog Jira, which will then provide a priority of the requirements. With that, I'm handing over to Waldemar again.
Thank you, Javit. It's actually really good to see that there's a standard process available now, which allows customers to find, but also request missing APIs, including an SLA. So let me sum up the main points. Number one, we've seen the SAP Intelligence Suite and how it is the foundation for business process integration scenarios, such as lead to cash, source to pay, etc. Second, I hope the given customer example with Nestle's journey to SAP S/4HANA Central Procurement showed well how complex scenarios can look like and actually the value behind having a native business process integration content, as well as how is SAP approaching the openness of S/4HANA for extensibility use cases. Last but not least, please keep in mind the SAP API Business Hub is the foundation and the landing page for information on integration as well as enterprise architecture content. So before we close, I'd like to ask you to consider joining some related TechEd sessions, which we're listing on this slide. And of course, I want to thank you, Louis and Javit, for joining the session and all of you for listening in. Feel free to contact us in case of questions anytime. Thank you.